Bay Area, I'm coming to San Jose February 28th, and then San Francisco March 6th through the 9th. I'm doing 5 different shows. I would love to see you there. You can get tickets at fumiabe.com. How does dating work for a Microsoft Heir?
There was one time that I led with that, and I haven't ever tried
led
to
with
flex.
Microsoft.
Yeah.
Okay.
Went up to this girl who's cute, who was she was kind of done up. I'm like, she might be impressed by this, and I'm like, hey, my dad was the CEO of Microsoft, and she was like, dude, you need to get a different line, and I was like, no, I don't usually do this. I'm not like that. I'm really not like that. I'm like a chill guy, and she's like, all right, and then she walked away. So.
Welcome to Cash Cuties,
a super financial podcast where we chat with the rich, the poor, and the fugly. I'm your host, Steffie Baik.
Who's the fugly? What the fuck?
Thanks for having me today.
I'm your host, Steffie Baik.
I'm Fumi Abe.
If you're listening on your Apple Pod app, please leave us a review, hit follow on Spotify, and sub to our YouTube channel for the video version of this podcast. All the links are available in the episode description below.
Shout out to our Dono Daddies. These are people who give us money on Patreon. This week we have none because we recorded 2 days ago. But if you want a shout out on the podcast and also access to bonus episodes, as well as just support this operation, we get new cameras. We got a video guy now. If you want to help us pay for these people, go to patreon.com/cashcutiespod. And give us some money, and then we'll give you a shout out on this podcast.
Hell yeah.
This week, I wanted to open with I had a little Cash Cuties moment. That's what I'm calling it these days.
Cute.
I had a Cash Cuties moment, and I want to discuss it with you guys, and I want to get your opinion on what I should do. So, I got a new laptop maybe 6 months after we started this podcast, because I was doing a lot of editing, and I just wanted something faster. I buy a new laptop. I got this old one, right? And I'm trying to sell it.
Yeah.
Selling an old laptop can be tricky because if you take it to the Apple store, they give you nothing, $200. And it's crazy because I bought that computer for over $2,000 in 2020, I think. So I'm like, okay, let me sell it online. So I put a little thing on Instagram to my friends. Mm-hmm. And I had a friend. She's a pretty good friend. She's a comedian friend. Okay. Not going to say any names. And so she was like, I'm interested. And I said, okay, how's this price? And she's like, oh, it's a little high. But I said, okay, how about this? I'll let you, I think it's worth this much. I said $500.
Wow.
So I said,
Where'd you even bring that, by the way? How did you get that number?
I just made it. I think because Apple return was $300.
Okay.
And I was like, it's worth more than $300.
Right.
So I said $500. And I said, okay, how about this? I'll let you play with it for a week. I'll let you play with the computer for a week. And if it's not to your liking or if you don't think it's fast enough, then you can get back to me. But if you like it, then it's $500 because I believe it's worth $500, right? So I give it to her, and it's been a month, and I text her once a week to be like, hey, have you tried it out yet? And she's like, oh, sorry, been busy, blah blah blah.
Do you think she's opened it? Is there a way to
I don't
check?
know, but at this point, I'm like, who's not on their computer in 2024? You know what I mean?
Does she not? Does she have a computer? Another computer?
She said it broke. So
she's been definitely using it. And
I know. So I'm just like, what is going on?
Wait, did you ask her for the money?
Well, I just said, hey, do you like the computer? I said, how are you liking the computer?
I think you should Venmo request her.
Really?
Because now you're just being how's your relationship with? How do you feel about her as a person?
Well, I'm just
now?
confused because we're pretty good friends. So I don't know. Have you had anything like this happen to you?
Not this specific. I've had Venmo requests go unfulfilled for a really long time, but
And will you request it again?
I'll hit the remind. It's annoying that you can only do the remind once. Because
Yes.
I'll do it 3 days later. I'm just hey, whatever, and then it'll be freaking 3 months, and then a text is so much more aggressive to send. You didn't do my Venmo, when it's gonna be there forever. But
yeah.
I think, have you seen her in person since you've done this?
No, but I'm gonna get brunch with her and a bunch of other Asian comedians on Monday. So I'm gonna see her. I'm gonna see you on dim sum. I'm gonna confront her at dim sum maybe.
Oh yeah, that's a funny thing to bring up in public. That's
with the other comedians on my side.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So, but
well, that's a lot of pressure.
That's
bullying, a social. It's a lit. I don't even know if bullying. It's just you are now taking other people's interaction to make
You think she might feel attacked?
Well, but it's not like she was gonna steal from you.
She was
don't know. We don't
She's
know.
your friend. I guess not.
I thought she was a friend, but I always make this point about there are so few comedians I would let them borrow money.
Yeah.
And I thought she was on that list, which is why I trusted her to be like, hey, play around with it for a week. If you don't like it, give it back to me.
Well, can she pay you back in a different way? Like, is there
Pay me back. What are you talking? What
like
the fuck?
like say that she ends up keeping it, right?
Yeah.
And you don't make it awkward. Is there a way that you can utilize her as a human or in work or whatever in comedy that will pay off the $500?
Okay,
No,
but
she
why-
owes you $500.
I know, but why do I have to now like think of a plan to make her work that money back for, you know what I mean? Like now my time is being used. So now like it's costing me more than $500, right? So it's like, no, I need to get
So
that
how are you
back.
going to bring this up?
Well, I'm going to bring it up at brunch, and I think to our guest point, I think
Over a shumai?
I'm
You're
going
like,
to over some frog legs.
yeah. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, hey, you know what else has been steaming? My temper.
It's just tough if she busts out the laptop when you do that. She's like, oh yeah, I meant to get it back to you. It's not up to snuff, you know?
Oh yeah, she could do that, but I think I like this bullying method of like, let me get the other comedians to
Yeah.
roast her as well. Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Like that.
It's
I
a little
would feel
risky,
a little
but
weird about it if it happened to me, but maybe she's in a social or in a financial situation where she can't pay. I mean, the fact that
then don't fucking take it from me. Don't offer to buy my laptop if you can't afford it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I was selling it, and I said, "Who is interested?" And she said, "I'm interested in buying
Yeah.
this."
I'm trying to think about the other side, the perspective of like just to like bring some empathy from her side of things.
But it's stealing.
What if you found?
if you can't afford it and you took it from me? That's stealing.
Yeah, but what if you just use the kindness of your heart to allow? Okay, maybe she has.
It was already very kind of you to be like, you can have a week to play around with it. Like a
Yes!
laptop works
Would
or
you-
it doesn't work.
Would you
know?
give it to her for $200? The amount that Apple
no,
would have.
because I know I can sell.
But you made up 500, is what I'm saying.
No, but if you look at online, like people are selling laptops
Okay.
for around that.
All right, you
that
checked.
much. Yeah, I think it's a fair price, especially because like you know me, I take care of my laptop. It's mad clean.
Okay, right. If
You
you, get,
know?
yes, I would trust your laptop.
Yes.
Um,
Fumi certified. It's
except
workable.
I don't know about all the. I don't know. There's some things that I feel a little questionable about.
about the porn.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but that doesn't.
He's into sex.
That increases the value of the laptop,
yeah,
actually.
that increases
yeah.
the value, if anything.
Oh my god.
To my, I can sell to a cash cutie for like $800 probably if it has my jizz on it. You know what I mean?
Sometimes I don't even want to take a shower in a man's like a bathtub or
Yeah.
whatever. Just like thinking
gross.
about I
I only do that
I-
if my friend who's a man lives with his girlfriend because then I feel like
Oh.
it's cleaner because this is problematic. But I feel like well clearly her standards have to be higher than him, right? Like she must be cleaning it or getting someone to clean it for her or something. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you should also if you get uncomfortable and you don't want to do this like socially, like at the dim sum place, I think you should just Venmo request her, and then
Not even a text
yeah.
checkup again because I've already followed up so many times. You're
Yeah, I
saying
think you should
hit
just
the
Venmo request it. And then I didn't even know that you could only ask for a second request once.
Yeah.
So you have to be strategic about the time that you send that request.
Right.
It can't be in some random like at midnight when you're like so pissed. You got to do it when she's like doing something during the day. Where
Yeah,
it just,
yeah.
What time would that be? That would be like maybe around lunch.
Lunchtime.
Are people
Tuesday.
happier?
Yeah.
Are people
Well, I think
happier
when
around
you're
lunch?
eating something, you're bored, right? You're on
Like
your
at
phone playing.
12:30 after the meal, you're feeling
Yes.
generous, kind.
Yeah.
You're feeling
Yeah,
nice
generous,
and full.
like, yes,
Nice and happy.
yeah.
Okay, this is huge for me. Okay, I'm gonna do the dim sum attack method, and then I will try the Venmo if it doesn't work. Thank you guys so much for your advice.
Can you intro our
Yes, I'm
guest
going to
now?
right now.
God damn.
You know, guys, if you're listening to this podcast, you're like, who is this man with the amazing advice?
Yeah.
Our guest today, we are so excited to have him. He's a stand-up comedian, but he's not. He's much more than that. He's a heir. He's a heir of a tech empire. Ever heard of Microsoft? Ever heard of Clippy?
Whoa.
Okay, this man, he is the son of Steve Ballmer. Okay, he was a former CEO of Microsoft in the 2010s to the end of beginning of 2020. I think I don't know exact years.
It was like the 80s to 2014.
He's a legend.
He's a legend. He's a
guy.
tech.
Yeah.
He's a tech icon. And we're so excited to talk to him about what that has been like growing up in that kind of environment. So give it up for the amazing Pete Ballmer.
Oh, thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
coming through, man.
Yeah, no problem.
How you feeling? You nervous?
I mean, I think like leading up, I was like, maybe I should be nervous about this, but I don't know. Obviously people have like asked me about this before, and people will be uncomfortable when they kind of like ask me questions about like, you know, my dad's money and whatnot. And I respect that because it's not something that I sort of like will independently talk about or, you know, bring up in my own life. But I think that I like taking the teeth out of it. I like, making people feel comfortable. And, it's also, it is an interesting perspective at the end of the day. And it is like fairly unique. I am aware of that. And so, no, I don't think I have anything like, I'm ultimately not nervous. I'm just, it's a cool platform to be able to talk about it. And I love the podcast. So
that's awesome that you're down to talk about it. I feel like sometimes it's so tied, certain things like family stuff is like tied to your identity that they don't want it to be part of their identity and they fight it instead, or they're just like, let me hide from it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm guessing this like show attitude comes from the fact that you are a stand-up comedian, and when you do stand-up, you have to kind of be honest with who you are.
100%.
That is what you are selling.
Yeah.
So you can't really change the fact that you were born into this family, and it was fine. You had a fine upbringing. It's fine. You don't have to be ashamed of that. And I feel like that. I mean, I wonder how much of it is like before stand-up when you were younger, like in high school and stuff. Was that something you were?
Yeah. I mean,
bringing up.
Yeah, so I was like deeply uncomfortable with all of this for the longest time through kind of like my mid 20s. I got like better about it over time, but like I would, immediately shut it down. And, the thing is like back in, middle school, high school, growing up, living in Seattle, my dad was a lot more big of a figure because people knew about Microsoft. People, he would come to my sports games. He'd be very loud at the sports games. People would like, there was one time after a lacrosse game in 7th grade, somehow the entire other team knew like who I was. And so you do the like, good game, like handshake line at the end of the game. Yeah. And all of them said Apple is better when I was going through the line.
Oh my god!
Like, come on, man.
Damn. I mean, that's funny now, but at the time, I bet you fucking hated that.
Yeah, dude. It was just like it was not something that I wanted to be a part of who I was, and it's not something that I wanted people to. It's not something you have control over, and it's not something that like I made a part of my identity. So it's frustrating to have people sort of like plant that on me, but
because it wasn't a choice of yours.
No, absolutely
like,
not.
Yeah.
And so like growing up, it was like too much. Where I was like, I just can't. And then in like college, in my early 20s, I kind of like people still knew, but like way less so, and I wasn't like around him, so I got the ability to be a lot more kind of like. I could separate myself from it, and I was kind of enjoying, having a little more separation in that respect, even though obviously it still came up. And then, yeah, like you're saying, in stand-up, there was a couple things. I'd say there's two sort of like main milestones in stand-up that kind of like helped me with that. So the first one was, I told you guys before we started, but I used a stage name for the first year that I did stand-up.
Yeah, what was it?
Because it was Bronson.
Just Bronson?
No, I was Pete.
I thought you just went by.
No, I didn't go one name. It was like, that'll throw him off the scent.
Yeah.
No one has any more questions about a guy named Bronson.
Bro, it'd be funny if his stage was Clippy.
Clippy, yeah. I just freaking love that guy.
That. Cute. I would love that.
Okay, but so what it was is that because I'd done stand up like a couple times in college, but like not really. And one time I was back in Seattle, and I was gonna do an open mic in Seattle. This was like my senior year of college, and I went up. The host, before Seattle, more people know who my dad was. He has a viral video, one of the original viral videos, where he's yelling about developers at the Microsoft sales meeting. And so the host of the open mic goes, the next guy coming to the stage, I think, he'll probably be yelling about developers or something because we think he's Steve Ballmer's kid. So give it up for Peter Ballmer. And I was like, and at that point, I'm freaking 6 months into stand-up or whatever. I'm completely deflated. I hate it. And so I was like, I don't want this to be a part of it. I don't want to go into like, the Bay Area and meet all these comedians and have that put on me. I just want to be a guy. So I was like, I changed my Facebook name to Peter Bronson. And
oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I am curious, like, what's your relationship with money? Like, how do you view it?
Yeah. So it's interesting. So I inherited money when I was 25 from my grandpa, who worked at Ford. He was an immigrant to the country. He worked at Ford.
What country is
Switzerland.
Okay.
Yeah. So he immigrated here from Switzerland. He went AWOL in the Swiss military and got out. And so he left me and my brothers a trust fund, as disgusting of a term that is.
No, we love that term here.
I love it.
We want one.
I'm in the right place.
We really respect that word here.
We can be friends. But so he left us a trust, which was, at the time, not that much money, but it was like a decent percentage was in Microsoft stock, which did pretty well, especially after my dad, which is a soft point for him, but that's another topic.
Yeah.
But so that ended up being like in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And so I got that when I was 25. And then like Zynga, where I was working, my like stock had fully vested and the share value had quadrupled. So I'd had money to just like do stand up full time. So really money for me is kind of like a means to do what it is that I like want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that like where I splurge is for, ultimately like my time. Where it's like taking stupid irresponsible Ubers to be able to like do a show and save the time that it would take to get there otherwise. So and I don't really like having anything that's kind of like flashy for the sake of being flashy. But I like doing a fun trip or something.
Well, I think that's the thing with like billionaires. They look like us. Billionaires will drive like a Honda. Like you don't know that, because I feel like people who make like close to $1 million.
Yeah.
They probably didn't have money.
They got the
growing up,
Gucci's.
and then they can't wait to show it off, right? But I think when you're like that wealthy, like that's why Bill Gates just looked like. If you didn't know that was Bill Gates, you'd be like, this is just some guy out of Walmart or whatever. Like he doesn't. And I think
you just wear plaid like everyone.
Yeah, you just
every other
you're like a regular
white
guy.
Many plaid shirts.
So when you were born, I don't know your dad's like career history. I just know he was like the head of Microsoft after Bill Gates stepped down, I think, right?
Yes.
And so that's when he was like the head figure. But when you were born, was he already killing it in tech, or was he just like?
Yeah, I mean, he was the president of Microsoft, I think, when I was born, which is a pretty big job, but not the CEO.
Yeah,
pretty big.
Pretty good. I don't know like what his net worth at the time. He was definitely like a millionaire of like some magnitude, but I don't know. I remember at some point, I have this very distinct memory, like the day he got CEO. I was like, 9 or something, and I was like in my bed. I was like about to go to sleep, and then my dad just comes in. He's like, "I got a promotion at work," and I'm like, "Yeah." And I had no fucking idea what that meant, obviously, but then it's funny now. Like, and I didn't even realize that stuck with me. But thinking back, I can just picture that moment clearly. It was like, oh, that's when he became CEO. It was a big day for the guy.
Oh my god! Now, did you like
sweet. That was his story time for you? That's
that was the story. That was the only time he read for me. No, I'm kidding. My dad was very sweet and a good father.
He's reading the Microsoft mission statement.
He just has an email. His performance review.
Yeah.
Do you know what the Wall Street Journal is?
Yeah.
It's just him
Oh my
on
god.
there.
Now, like, I want to kind of go back to this like lacrosse story you had, because that's fascinating to me, because I think that's one thing that we don't often talk about, especially with like kids of famous people, is some of the bullying that might happen. Like, I'm guessing you went to like a private school or like some environment where you were around other like I'm assuming you didn't go to just like regular public school, right? Like
I went to public school for elementary school, and then I went to private school from like 5th grade to
right.
college.
But like, did you have? But even within the private school environment, like, did you feel like people would talk about you in that way, or like, or like, were your friends' dads also like killing it, so it was like pretty chill?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was, my dad was always kind of the most. So, like, not to, but I mean, well, first let me preface this by saying that like. It's a silly thing where every time I complain about like how I was like treated as a result, I feel bad because I've had like a very blessed and cushy life.
Right, no.
I just want to, and I understand, but I just want to preface that.
Cuties, bro.
Right.
We know
Yeah.
you're also a human. You're also a 13-year-old.
That's true.
You're middle school like
You're a
everybody
kid,
else.
That's true.
yeah.
We're fucking all insecure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think I mean once I was in, it'd be the kind of like the general trajectory has always been that like when people first meet me, it's something that like will be brought up or they'll be kind of weird about it or whatever. But then, I was in the same school from 5th grade to 12th grade. And so then people just kind of knew me at that point. And so like maybe it would come up at first, or people would like, bring up certain things, but I wouldn't describe it as like, bullying at that respect. And then like over time, people just kind of know me. And then I hope it kind of like fades into the background a bit in terms of like when they think of me, what they think of. But it'd more come up like, I mean, when I was in like middle school, I was doing like rec basketball, and this like guy on my team was like, "Oh, like your dad's a billionaire. Like I'd kill to be in your position." And I was like, "Who are you gonna kill?" But I hope you know that's not how this works. But or like I I mean, it's interesting. I think it's more interesting like when I was young to kind of like in elementary school, because I didn't really like, I knew that my parents were rich, but I of course didn't understand
To that
that.
extent. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like my friend who like lived, a little bit away. I thought that we had the same amount of money. I thought that like my parents used the money we had to buy a bigger house, but then after that, like we netted out to the same.
Yeah.
Or like there was one time I was gonna have a kid over to my house, and before he came over, he was like, "How many bathrooms do you have at your house?" And I was like, "That's a weird question." And then like later, I was like, "Oh, he was asking because his parents told him that we're rich, so like."
Yeah, because that's not a kid question.
No, he doesn't care. He's gonna take a piss. Like, he's fine.
That's interesting.
But seriously, how many bathrooms do you have?
We have 3, 4, I think 5 bathrooms.
I feel like that's not. I mean, like that's a lot, but also like I don't know. I had 3.
I had 3. Yeah, I had 3.
I thought you were gonna say like 17. Or something.
No, our house is like our house is like like my dad bought our house for like $1 million in the 90s, and obviously it's worth more than that now. But it's not like unilaterally when people get to like my parents' house like in Seattle, they're like, this is pretty chill relative to what it could be.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay.
Did he was your family like a big spender? Would you guys go out and like did you have like fancy cars, or like was it pretty?
It was pretty. So both of my parents didn't grow up with money.
Okay.
And so my mom grew up. She was like the youngest of 5 kids. She grew up on like a farm in rural Oregon, and then my dad, his dad like ended up being middle class kind of thing, but they didn't grow up with money, and so both of them kind of had a like have like an idea that like we don't want to be wasteful with money. We don't want to spend if we don't have to, and so it's like my car that my older brother and I both had were like my dad's old '98 Lincoln, and so it was like we passed the car down.
Yeah.
Did you get not a curfew, an allowance growing up?
I had some amount of. I feel like I got like something like $10 a week when I was like a kid for a bit, but then
These are like such normal numbers.
Yeah,
your parents did a really good job like keeping you like normal.
Thank you. Yeah,
you seem pretty normal.
I appreciate that. I do. Me and my brothers like we'll get that a good amount, and it's funny because like you don't have to do. You just gotta hang out, and everyone's like, "How are you so chill?" And I'm like, I don't know, man.
Are you cosplaying normal right now? With
this is actually a brilliant performance I'm doing.
You're actually culture appropriating people who make $90,000, and it's actually really offensive.
After the camera stop, I'm gonna ask you both to rub my feet. So,
okay, what? Okay, so I told you this earlier. I listened to Podcast P, which is Paul George's podcast.
Mm-hmm.
He's a player for the LA Clippers, very famous basketball player, and your dad was on it.
Yep.
Because he's the owner of the LA Clippers.
Yes.
And one of the stories that he told about when he bought it, he's like, I was looking to buy a basketball team, but it didn't really work out. And one day my son came up to me, who was you? It was like my son came up to me and was like, Dad, the Clippers are on sale. And then he was like, and then I just bought it. And I was listening and I was like, this is the most insane conversation you can have with your dad.
Yeah.
And it sounded like you were kind of young in this story. And I was wondering if you could like recount that for us. Like how did that go down?
So this is my freshman year of college. My dad had like tried to buy the Seattle Sonics before they went away before, didn't take. And then I woke up, I was like on my phone and I saw that like, Donald Sterling had like been very racist and basically was going to be ousted from the NBA.
Yeah.
And so I like called my dad. I was like, hey, have you seen this Donald Sterling stuff? And he was like, who is that? And I'm like, you're going to want to like check on this. I think this team's going to sell. And I mean, it's funny because like at the time I didn't really like, think about it much. I was just like, oh, he wants to do that. I like, this is a fun connection to make. But at the time, that was when I was still pretty uncomfortable with all the money stuff. And so it ended up being, I don't want to say like backfiring on me, but like it just brought, my dad had like retired a little before that. And so like the amount of kind of like spotlight that would be on me.
Because he would tell that story.
And then he would just, own the Clippers. Whereas otherwise he would just be like a retired rich guy who no one really gives a shit about.
Oh, right. But now he's back in the spotlight.
Now he's back in the spotlight.
Oh,
and so that was my fault. And, I'm happy. It was kind of like just like a, knee-jerk reaction. And I guess I'm happy I did it for him. But at the time, it was like when they sold the team, I stayed in my room all day. I'm like, this is like big in the news. I don't want anyone to talk to me about this. That was
your emo moment is your dad bought an NBA team.
So now that because you are the one that brought this idea to him.
Yeah.
Do you get a piece of it? Do you get any sort of like?
Dude, you get to inherit.
Or
the
do you get
Clippers?
to inherit the like?
I mean that's so that's an interesting conversation around like I'm actually going to Seattle like pretty soon, so me and my family are going to do like every now and then, like every couple of years we'll do like a money talk where we like specifically sit down.
Ooh, cute.
Yeah, it's very cash cuties.
Oh my God, let us host it. Let us host it.
Live pod.
Steve, show us your credit card.
What are you guys doing on Sunday? But I mean that's like an interesting conversation around like what happens in terms of like, because me and my brothers could inherit the team. I think that like, none of us are like as into it as him, but at the same time it is very cool and it'd be like a way for us to get together. So
Yeah.
I think like as it stands, that's not the plan for us to inherit it, but like we could totally have that if we want. And I think hopefully we have a lot of time to kind of suss that out.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, that's like an interesting question that we don't really have the answer
Wait,
to right
tell us
now.
more about this money meeting thing, because this is fascinating to me. And,
Yeah.
and before we get into it, I'd like to just point out the fact that Pete was a teenager looking at this newspaper article and be like, "Oh, Dad wanted to invest," like linking that. I think that is noteworthy, because I think a lot of 14-year-olds or whatever who are not necessarily taught about money or whatever,
Yeah.
like we're not entrepreneurial,
No,
right?
for
Like
sure.
essentially this was a pitch. Right?
Yeah.
And so obviously the money stuff is Dad's handling, but like the way that you thought about that, I think is like really amazing.
Yeah, because like us growing up, most of us, I feel like, don't talk about money, or like
Right.
it's something to be shameful about talking about. What was your experience with that? I guess when you were younger, was it an open conversation? Do you guys have money talks since you were young?
No. So this is like, I mean, so basically, like after my dad retired, he did like a lot of like reflection, a lot of like work on himself. Basically, I mean, growing up, we didn't talk about money like that at all. And like, in a sense, there's less to talk about because like, we're so far off. My parents like gave us a reasonable allowance. We're so far off from this being, something that we interact with directly that it's not really, but I think it started somewhere around like my junior year of college. And that was the first time we did that like conversation. It was because like that was when they told us we'd be getting some money at 25. And so we talked about like that, and that was kind of the subject of it. But we've had a couple like check-ins since then. We had a moderator the first time we did it of just
Wow.
someone.
Even though it's a family conversation?
Yeah, I mean it's the kind of thing where
sense.
it's
That
a guy
makes sense.
whose job is to like talk to like wealthy families about money specifically.
Wow.
Because it's a hard topic, and it's like
No, that's true. Because there's like
You should
therapists.
do
there's
that job.
Me?
What is that job
Yeah.
called?
Well,
The moderator.
yeah. What do you call
probably
it?
pays well. I don't know. It was just a guy who was there. I don't know like what the title is or whatever.
I mean,
But
we
Interesting.
could-
How was he helpful? Like,
I think that for that first time that we did it, it was less that he sort of like did anything. I mean, I don't really remember him sort of navigating the conversations in ways that it wouldn't, but we hadn't really sat down and like had that degree of a conversation about it before. And so I think that just his presence was kind of a forcing function in a way that was helpful.
Right.
That's cool. It's interesting. It's almost like having it's not an attorney, because like I thought like when I watch like really wealthy people, it's like they have attorneys. There is usually someone there, but I thought it was someone who was like dealing with like the legal aspect of things. So this guy, was he kind of doing that too?
No, I mean, they're like, maybe that's a different conversation once like, my parents die and then
right.
but like, which again, that's another funny thing where it's like people will be like, so you're going to be really rich one day. I'm like, yeah, are you asking him if I'm going to be excited about my parents dying? Like that's
I know. Yeah.
I don't know. But no, he wasn't really around the legal stuff.
You know what, they do make like wealthy kids, like kids of wealthy families in movies, like evil. Like that's
Yeah.
all they're
yeah.
trying to do.
Even in gosh, there was that show on HBO, Winning Time, which is about the Lakers dynasty. What Dr. Buss.
Yeah.
So kind of similar to your family, though he bought the Lakers and then he passed it down, to his family. So I think his daughter owns it now.
Jenny Buss. Yep.
Jenny Buss, right? But he was like a playboy. He had drugs and was sleeping with a bunch
Yeah.
of women, and like the Balmer story is much more tame, which is
it's not
cool.
Succession.
It's not Succession. It's like
Succession,
way
no.
less toxic.
You're a comedian.
yeah. By the way,
I think that's amazing.
I was
I would
gonna
love to
ask
see
you.
a Kendall Roy comedian episode though. That would be funny.
Sometimes we talk about, a lot of Asian entertainers talk about like the day we told our parents we were going to do stand-up comedy, and it's scary because a lot of Asian parents are like, that's the dumbest thing
Yeah,
for money reasons. But I think I would be more scared to come up to my dad, who is a billionaire, that I'm going to do stand-up comedy, because that level of disappointment is more than just like an immigrant story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting one where. So I started doing stand-up like, I was a computer science major. I like went and I got like a product management job. I got like promoted twice while I was there. I was doing stand-up kind of like, after work basically. So, I'd had a good career for the time that I did work, and like I made some progress in stand-up. And so it was the kind of thing where, just doing stand-up, they didn't care, like outside of, they were like, oh, great, whatever. And then leaving to go full-time, I think that I can be like kind of I'm like a realist. I'm kind of like, I can be kind of like cynical or whatever. And I think that like they knew that like they trusted me that if I was making that move, that I wouldn't do it if it didn't make sense, and I would stop doing it if it felt like, because that's kind of where I'm at, where it's like financially I could just keep doing stand up, like full time for as long as I want. But at a certain point, if I felt like I wasn't getting better, or if I wasn't seeing sort of like,
The
progression basically, then I would, that would make me stop.
Right.
Because I don't want to, I mean, it's an interesting thing where it's like, there's no financial pressures for me around like doing that. It's not like I have to really get, I hear you talking about like, you got to kind of like make it work doing full-time stand-up. So like, I don't have that. And so it's an interesting thing where for me, it's just like, at what point the reckoning comes from, oh, I'm just not good enough at this.
Your friend Jordan told us to ask you about the George Bush story.
What is that?
Yeah, so I met George Bush.
Shouts.
I met
Shouts to George Bush.
former president, renowned painter George Bush.
Oh gosh.
You may have heard of his masterclass. So I've met both Bush and Obama actually.
Love that.
Because my dad was like a pre-Trump Republican, and then my mom has always been like a liberal, and so I went to a George Bush fundraiser in Bellevue, Washington, where I'm from, when he was running for it was like re-election at that point, maybe it was just election. I think no, it was whatever. It was maybe 2003, and so we got, and part of that you get to meet him if you donate enough, presumably. And so I was like in my little suit with my brother and my dad. And I'm standing, and I was kind of a George Bush guy at this time.
What does that mean?
It was, Republicans, there's a lot of appeal for like a 7-year-old boy where he's like, we gotta have war and like beat tough guys. And like, I'm from Texas. And so I was kind of like, this guy seems great. And there was someone in my school who was like really like John Kerry, and I thought that was annoying. And so I was like a George Bush guy. So I had prepared a line that I was going to say to George Bush when I met him. And what I said was, I got up to him, and he like, said hi to my dad. He shook my brother's hand, and then he shook my hand, and I said, hi, my name is Peter Ballmer, and I support what you're doing in Iraq.
Oh my God.
So I said that to former President George Bush. And
what did he say?
He was like, all right.
He gave you finger guys.
That was my memory of it. Like, you're 7 years old. Who fucking knows? But
wow.
So yeah, I met George Bush, and
you were 7.
I mean, I think this was it was John Kerry. Was that the 2004 election?
No, it was the second one.
That was 2004.
Yes,
so this was like
yes.
2003. So I was what? I was 9 years old. I was 9. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's wild.
I remember they like did this weird thing on my elementary school where the first election was against Al Gore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how this was legal, but they made the students have an election. They made us vote.
What?
Bush or Gore, and they announced the winner on the announcements. Like we had like a school news team.
Yeah.
And they would read the results, and it was 99. Everybody voted for Bush except one girl.
Huh.
And then I was on the school announcements team, and they were like, "We have to go interview that one girl who didn't vote for." just like no privacy, like
yeah.
And so we go to this like
What's your
poor
fucking
girl's
problem?
like second grade classroom.
Yeah.
I'm 5th grade. I'm not even that much older, but go to the second, and we like it was like this little brown girl, and we have her on the green screen, and it says like WRKN because like my elementary school is called Ridgewood Elementary, and we're like, why did you vote for Gore when everybody else voted for Bush? And she started crying, and she's like, I changed my mind.
Oh no.
And I was like, but why did the school? Because I voted for Bush, but because I didn't know anything about politics and
Sure.
everybody was, and I was like, I don't care. It's a cooler last name.
Yeah.
You know, we're like making Bush like.
Yeah, it's
Bush was my
always
Bush.
just like who everyone else your friends are doing. You're just like, okay.
And
Yeah,
this is
that
the
sounds
time when
great.
Yeah,
like
right?
you know, sons of Republicans would be like, Al Gore thinks he invented the internet. You remember when that was a thing?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I remember that was-
yeah,
yeah.
that was like a thing. And I don't know why they made us do it, but that's my memory.
That's ridiculous. I mean, it's like one thing to like have an election that's like kind of weird, but it's so mean to interview the girl on like
dude,
the local.
That girl must have been fucking scarred or something.
That's
probably a
so
podcast now.
sad.
It's also like, what was the answer gonna
She's a
be? She was like, I
comedian.
like his policies. I like
She's literally a.
I think climate change
Poor
is a real problem,
thing.
and yeah. So
I support gay
it's,
marriage. Is what it. Yeah.
yeah.
Was there anything you ever like purchased, like talking about, you know, presents? Like, did you ever purchase or get anything that was like definitely exorbitant, or something maybe your family bought that was just like you knew was like what?
Yeah,
For
Rich-
me,
It
like
could be
as,
for you or in
Or
the
the family,
house.
like some
yeah.
rich guy shit. You're like, damn,
Yeah.
this was some rich guy shit.
yeah. I mean, I'd say that the place in which, in terms of like a Christmas present, like I'd say not really. The place we really like flossed out the most is like vacations. Is
Oh,
that
okay.
like, and it's funny because that's kind of like the most private way that you can like floss out, where it's like,
Yeah.
dude, and it would be so. You know, because when you're a billionaire, you can kind of just like people will lay down for you ultimately. And the most brutal version of that, we went to New York when I was a kid, and we went to the Statue of Liberty, right? And so outside the Statue of Liberty, there's like a little cafe where you can get lunch, and there was like it was super hot outside, massive line for lunch. But we didn't have to wait in the line. Instead, they had like a cordon, like a roped off area right next to the line with like a big table and like a really nice lunch spread.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm like 12 at this point, and so we're just sitting at this like roped off area right next to the line eating our little like steak or whatever. And at the time I was so humiliated and mortified.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, because everyone in line's like, what the fuck are these
yeah,
people?
So
yeah.
public.
Yeah.
It's so public. It's the most like wealth display,
Yeah.
disgusting, and I hated. I mean, so like, you know, yeah,
That's
like
so
we've
funny.
been on very nice vacations, and
Yeah.
like this is all some rich guy shit. But in terms of like what was given to me, honestly, not really.
Yeah,
Like,
I
we
mean,
got
even
an
your car
Xbox.
is like so normal, man. Xbox, yeah, but your dad works, so you probably got it for free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it was pretty
Well, you
chill.
got it before. You probably got to like play with it before.
oh, did you get to
like,
play with the Xbox when it came out?
Whoa, that's sick. Now that's a
shit.
flex.
That's
cool.
cool.
That was
That
very
is
cool.
real.
That's very.
That was
cool.
pretty tight, I will say.
Damn. Do you have any? You know, you seem like a responsible guy, but do you have any vices? Like, what gets Pete going? What's an area in your life where you're like, damn, this is one area that I'm a little unreasonable when it comes to my spending.
When it comes to my spending, yeah, I mean, Ubers are ridiculous. Like DoorDash stuff, I'm pretty slutty about. I mean, honestly, the best part about like, you know, having money is to kind of be able to like easily wipe away like a financial error. So it's like I got my car towed. I think that's in the statement. But and when that happens, like that, you know, it's like $800 or something like that, and that's fucking brutal. And I get to have like a moment of that, and then I go like, oh, actually, it's totally fine. Or like changing the flight change fee is, you know, you can't change your flight, but I want to leave a day earlier, a day later, like I'm just going to buy another flight.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
So it's like little things that are like, if I had maybe planned better, I could have avoided, but it's just like conveniences
Yeah.
conveniences is really where I kind of like ball out, I
That's
would
really
say.
Yeah.
smart because instead of buying a flashy car, the way you're spending money makes your life easier, right?
Yeah.
Like if you had a fancy car, it's not really gonna make your life easier.
No,
you know?
I got a Ford Focus. It's great.
Do you really have a Ford
Yeah, I got the 2015 Ford Focus out front.
I'm telling you, he's cosplaying right now.
Bro. Okay, so we always
Or you just don't give a fuck. That's really right. It's just
I-
like
I- good
you don't
call.
care.
I really think
Great call.
billionaires are not the same as millionaires. It's not the millionaires. They're just plain rich. They don't know what's going on. You know,
No,
you could be
that's
you
true.
could be a millionaire in your lifetime, but you can't always be a billionaire. You know what I mean? That shit is like. But okay, so we always talk about you dating. Now you're trying to date. You're trying to date now. You're trying to date.
I'm on all the apps.
And Steffie's trying to date
A
people.
provider. I've listened to the show.
Where can Steffie meet someone like that? Do you have any friends?
Are you trying to set me up with one of?
Because this is what billionaires look like. Okay, you're looking at the wrong. Because you're going for like the guys who are with the flashy cars, and what we're realizing today is that those guys aren't having money meetings with their family. They don't know shit.
I think it's just finding someone who's wealthy but who's also not a dick. is kind of where my issue is. It's not that they're not a lot. There's not. I'm in LA. There's a lot of these people, and I'm on the app League now. The League, and
there's too many white people on that one.
It is mostly I have been matched with that's the algorithm. It's why yesterday I went at 5:00. They have this thing where you can like meet them online, like for
a chat.
Yeah, you could do a
FaceTime?
Yeah, it's a 3 minute chat with people, and I was so excited. I met my first my first Asian guy on there, and I like shouted it out. I was like, oh my god, you're my first Asian. Shout out! I was so
you guys
excited.
Get banned
I was
for like racial statements. Yeah, she just called me an Asian to my face.
So,
you got any rich friends?
I got some like the only place that I would genuinely say you should go is like the resort we go to in Hawaii when we go to Hawaii.
Dude, that's not even a bad idea. That makes so much like White Lotus shit.
Yeah.
How am I gonna get there? It's like $1,000 a night. You want me to just go?
No, you can go to Hawaii. You stay with a friend, but you hang at the pool. You pay for the pool.
Right. Okay.
That's
Right.
true.
What's a resort you stay at? Is it like a
It's called Kukio. It's like a nice.
God
name
damn!
is
I don't even know how to spell it, bro. How do you even?
But I don't like. I mean, like my friends. I don't like. My friends aren't like my best friends are like my friends from college and like my stand-up friends and like a couple friends from high school, but like they're not. I don't have like that many connects. If you're looking for kind of a, I got some guys with some good careers in tech who will make a lot of money, but they're not like millionaires right now.
I'm not looking for millionaires or billionaires. I'm looking for someone who has stability in their financial place. Someone that has a house at least.
Oh yeah. I don't have.
But Pete, how old are you again?
I'm 29.
Okay, well, you're getting there. Like where people are buying homes and stuff.
Or can get a house. Like that's important to me. That's stability at least, right?
Yeah.
Or has an investment property who is, that money is being put into maybe another home or something like that. Some form of stability, because if I want kids, I want to make sure that I don't need to work for a couple years if I don't, right? Those things are important to me.
100%.
I don't think that's unreasonable to ask for.
No, I think it's totally reasonable, and I think that like I don't know. It's interesting like talking with my sort of like girlfriend about this right now, where it's like, she has a career, she works at Meta, and she like, is good at her job, like pretty advanced, but it's interesting. She doesn't like absolutely like love it. She's not like terribly passionate, and she never sort of like thought about like, being a stay-at-home mom before, but it's just interesting watching my brother has like, a kid, and it's so much work, and just thinking about like, for the first time, we're kind of like, that might be, and this is her coming to this conclusion. She's like, that might be like a viable thing that I do. And like, she wants to be financially independent and doesn't like want to like rely on me. But the reality of it is that it's like, she wants to like coach track and, help kids out and whatnot. And so the way to do that might be just being a stay-at-home mom. And if that means that you can be taken care of, that's great.
I mean, how long have you been with your girl?
A little over a year.
How does dating work for a Microsoft Heir? Because it's like, are there people sort of like, do you feel like women are like targeting you because they know you're rich? Like, do you have to deal with that as an adult?
Dude, honestly, I wish that was more of a thing than it was in my life.
Pete's like, nobody's trying to fuck me.
Dude,
I have all this money and no one to share it with.
That's because he leads with, I'm a stand-up comedian.
Yeah. What do you do for work?
Because he says Ford Focus. Don't say Ford Focus.
Yeah, I bring that up in the first couple sentences. No, I mean,
he needs to wear vintage shirts that say Microsoft from that, so people can be like, ask that question, and then you're like, actually, or Clippers vintage shirts.
Yeah, bro.
But like, people would assume that there's, but like, and like, there's been a couple like, women online who like you get DMs and like you don't know it's that, but I'm like, I'll just probably, I'm deleting this. There was one time that I like led with that, and I haven't ever tried
led
to
with
like
Microsoft.
Yeah,
okay.
It was. I was in Vegas in college.
That's a good place to do it.
I was like, this is the place. Yeah. I'm not gonna do it like with any girl who like I'm in college with, but I was in Vegas, and like it's hard to try to hook up with a girl in Vegas, and I was like went up to this girl who's cute, who was like, she was like kind of done up. I'm like, she might be impressed by this. And I'm like, hey, my dad was the CEO of Microsoft. God. And she was like, dude, you need to get a different line. And I was like, no, I don't usually do this. I'm not like that. I'm like really not like that. I'm like a chill guy. And she's like, all right. And then she walked away. So
It's like what stays in Vegas. You really took that literally.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
try these lines. I would be turned off by that. Like
Turned
you're
off.
just.
I mean,
You gotta have a personality, and like, what is that personality when you're like, hey,
Right. It's
My
like you're
dad-
like the douchebag in the movie.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
so-
yeah, yeah,
100%.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
just like, I haven't tried this before. I want to try this. And like, of course, it's like, that makes sense. And what is it going to do for her in tonight? Like, am I going to,
right. Like, are you
what,
gonna
what,
give me money? Like,
yeah,
you
you
know?
could give me some stock.
Yeah,
tonight,
yeah.
like-
I think it works on some people though.
Yeah, 100%.
If that's your goal, I think I have girlfriends who their goal is to just marry rich, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Personality and all that. So it depends on the person. You didn't choose the right person for this.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think like if I'd wanted to kind of like, floss that and try to leverage that in dating, then I probably could have done that.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
wouldn't have, attracted who I
You're not
ultimately-
you're not trying to find this type of specific girl. It's the same, right? Like
I don't want that to be what she's into about.
Right,
me,
right.
right,
So you're not
right,
gonna
right.
find that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I saw on your credit card statement that it's interesting how we're talking about you're like a normal guy, and you spent a lot at this restaurant, but the name of this restaurant does not scream quality sushi. You spent $733 at a place called Sushi Rapture, and that place cannot be good. As a Japanese person, I'm gonna tell you that place sucks.
Yeah, you're correct.
But why-
Rapture.
Did you buy the branch? Like, why is it so much money?
So that was so the old apartment that I used to live in. I had 3 roommates. We lived in a place for 6 years, and we were right next door to this place, Sushi Rapture. That was like pretty B- sushi, but it was like I moved in with my girlfriend in November, and so it was like the last week before we did like a thing where we're like let's have dinner at Sushi Rapture, and then we'll like party in the apartment or whatever. And so I didn't pay for that. I just put my card down, and then people Venmo'd me.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so that's what that was, and it was fine.
That what we've talked about in the past is how we when one of us when we buy something, we think that if someone is wealthier that they're like is there an expectation sometimes where people expect you to pay, although you're not even like you're not the one making the money, it's your parents, but it's like, do they expect you to be the one to take care of the check?
I'd say there's never an expectation. I've never felt like any expectation in that regard. Like, and most of my college friends, have like 6-figure incomes and are all like doing pretty well for themselves in a way that like, you don't feel that at all. Sometimes with like, some of my stand-up friends, I'll like.
That makes so much. Yes. I mean,
You're like, I feel bad for these kids.
Well, and it's not. I mean, it's an interesting. It's not like I'm like fucking flossing, but like I've like been nice in a couple situations.
Sure.
But it's also it's the kind of thing where it's like I think that sneakily, if you get in the habit, like I think a trap that rich people fall into is that like if you. It's nothing for me to like, buy a $26 lunch, right? But then it's more to the recipient who like doesn't have as much money. And I think that it's a weird kind of like exchange energetically where it's like, it's a nice, and there could be higher amounts of money where we're talking about this, but it's a nice thing for them on the receiving end, but it's like not much for me to give. And it kind of, it creates this weird, if you do that too much, if you let that seep into your life too much, then I think it can create a weird dynamic with your friends.
Right.
And I think that like, but no, I mean, no expectation, and like I'll be nice every now and then about certain things, but
yeah, dude, I did something like this before, but I did it in a very nasty Fumi way. So when I was like an open micer, I had like a regular job in advertising, and then you know how it is like coming up in stand-up comedy, like a lot of your peers who may or may not be funny, like they have crazy lifestyles. Like some people aren't working, they're like dog walking in New York City. It's very expensive to live there. And like I remember this one guy, he was like, I was probably like 25. He was probably like 40. He was like a personal trainer. He couldn't buy a sandwich. So I bought him a sandwich. But I keep bringing it up. That's what it is. Every time it's like, hey, I bought you that sandwich.
Hey.
I would always, and he hated it. He fucking hated it. Because to your point, like I could buy him a sandwich. I had a job. It doesn't matter to me, But I kept, because I'm a fucking dick, I kept bringing it up. So don't
my
do that.
God.
Don't do that.
That's so funny.
that's great.
I think he quit comedy actually after a while. Not because of my sandwich incident, but just
I can get
It
a
wasn't
job and I
very
can
good,
buy my
but-
own sandwiches.
yeah.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
You shop at Costco.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
But
baby.
$961.
That's a lot.
Well, that was the first time that, like, me me and my girlfriend went to Costco before we bought a TV when we were
Oh,
there.
okay.
Like we needed
that
a
makes
TV
sense. That
for
makes
our
sense.
place, so it was
Yeah.
like that and a bunch of like cleaning supplies and like paper towel. Like it was a bunch of stuff like you want to have for your apartment right when you move in because that was right when you
Gotcha.
moved in addition to groceries.
Also, can I just say like being a son of a billionaire, buying a TV that's under $900, that's humble, bro. That's humble as hell.
Why do I need a nicer TV?
I think my TV's over $1,000. I think I don't have any money. How much is this TV?
I don't
This is the
remember.
nice one that
You know
curves.
where I
it's the
got?
curve,
I
yeah.
got this at Walmart.
Oh, you did?
I got this
It's a
TV at
Samsung,
Walmart.
right?
Walmart is such an interesting place to like. I feel like anytime I search anything to purchase, Walmart comes up, and a lot of it looks like sketchy. Have you
Why?
ever noticed that? I don't know what.
You don't trust Walmart.com, the second biggest online retailer in the
No,
world?
it's like they'll sell like I don't know, like they'll sell like a Gucci purse, but then I
They
don't.
do?
But I think
that
it's,
does surprise me. Yeah.
yeah, no, but I don't think it's from Walmart. I think they're using like it's using like another site to funnel.
Oh,
like
so they're using
like
the
drop
Walmart platform.
some
that it's coming from a.
yeah,
different- oh, I
and it's
see.
just not like weeded out.
I thought you're looking at Gucci purses on Walmart. That's your vibe. You're like rich, but like you want to be rich, but you're poor.
Yeah, I don't know. The TV is so old that I can't even like. What is it when you like AirDrop and you want to watch things through your phone?
Oh, the
It's like AirPlay or
yeah,
some shit.
AirPlay.
share
Yeah.
thing. Oh, you
Yeah.
can't do that. That's
yeah,
okay.
but I don't know anything about TVs, and it's fine, so I don't care. But Alaska Airlines, this is interesting.
Mhm.
You only spent $258.
You're
on
flying
a flight.
economy, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're an economy guy. I will say, I think if my dad was a billionaire, I think I would always fly business, but maybe not. I don't know.
I'll do an exit row. I'll bump up to an exit row for a long flight because I'm tall. But it's first class is like not better than economy. It's like
I guess
I
for
don't
shorter
care.
flights.
Yeah,
Maybe-
I think I was going to Seattle for that one. Or
Oh,
something.
from here to Seattle.
I think so.
Oh, it's like an hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you even have like I feel like my friends who are comedians mostly, like aka you and all my other friends, it's like their goal is they have like right at some point they're doing what they love, but at some point they always have a financial goal of being like, I want to be able to fly first class or business class, like right, my whole life. That's my goal, financial. Do you have something like that, like a financial goal for yourself that you want to get to with your career too?
I think like I have a financial goal that's kind of like it's more like a proxy for where I'm at, where I'm like I would like to be at the point where I'm like, a headliner, I can make a what would be a reasonable income, and I would live beyond that income because I can. But like, I'd like to make what a headliner makes over the course of like a year in terms of like being able to, headline clubs and whatnot.
But
Yeah.
to do what with it is my question. I guess it's like
feel validated.
Well, that yes. I meant like, what are you gonna buy with the things? Because Fumi, like, what do you want? You've told me like you have like his goal this year. I think is like to make like 90K or some like something
I
like
mean,
that, right? Like
I think I have yearly goals, but I think to your point, I think if I could buy a house with comedy money, it would mean so much more to me
Right.
than if I bought it using the money I made in advertising or like some corporate job that I don't like.
for
Yeah,
sure.
It's
100%.
It's how I got that money.
Yeah.
It's not the amount,
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
with your headliner money, what is it that is it symbolic of like a physical thing or no, that there is nothing?
I don't think there is a physical manifestation. I mean, it would be cool if I was, making enough money where that could buy me a house, and that'd be cool. But I don't really think of it in terms of like having a direct physical thing that it corresponds to. It's more that like I want to have a career that I can think of as like, all right, I'm doing it. I have a following. There's people who like, like what I do and come see me, and I can kind of continue to do that and, have a viable career. And I'd like to make the money that comes along with that, but that's not kind of the main thing.
But to be fair, because you inherit all this money, like even outside of comedy, there's really no other job that you would necessarily need to depend on for money. So like the question that you're asking sort of in a weird way has been like removed from your life, right?
Yeah.
In terms of,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
do you
yeah.
have any financial
Yeah.
goals? Like, well, nothing can beat this. So
Right.
no, right? Like that's kind of interesting.
It's kind of, it's definitely trippy because it's like, all right, when I left my job, I was like, I could go back to product management whenever I want.
Yeah.
But it's like, now I'm like, I just don't need to do that. So I will never do that. And kind of like and so it's interesting where it's like, for me, the only two real things that I would think about doing is like comedy, or like if in whatever universe that doesn't work out, like, we have like, my family has a foundation where we like, do philanthropy and like give out money that my older brother's working in. And like, that's the best way to kind of like make a large positive impact on the world if I'm
Yeah.
like not doing I mean, not that me doing comedy is doing that, but like I would do that otherwise, and I don't really want to do that right now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, you know, if I'm optimizing for like either what I enjoy or like what's good for the world in terms of like how I spend my time, it's kind of that. Like I'm not just gonna go work a product management job just to be able to tell people that like I have a job. You know?
Right. It's cool to be able to get over that, because I do think sometimes when you do inherit money, people still want to do that just so they can say that to other people, to be like, hey, I'm not one of those.
Yep.
But if you can get over it, you can do a lot of cool things with your life.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know?
and it took me a long time to get to that point where it's like I left my job in February 2021, and like for like over a year afterwards, I did all these like, you know, part-time things to kind of like just so I can point to things for people. Where it was like, all right, I do product consulting, and I like coach high school lacrosse, and I like, you know, produce 3 shows a week, and I'm like doing these kind of like side jobs just so I could show people like, but I'm still making money even though like I don't have to do that. So
Yeah.
it's taken me a long time to get comfortable with that, but like, you know, that's just the reality.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you a nosy question that I think Steph and I are both wondering?
Hit
is
it,
like,
baby.
Okay.
Well, don't put me in it.
No, but I think you're wondering too. I think you're wondering
if you're
too.
wondering, ask him.
Well, no, I'm gonna
Stop
drag you in.
He's gonna talk about
Come on in.
All right,
All right,
go
so
ahead,
Steph
go.
had a question for
Steph
me.
had a question.
Yeah, for
that I'm channeling
yeah.
through my brain.
Yeah.
Okay, this entire time, this is what I've been wondering.
Yeah.
So you inherit this money, right? And you're like, well, I guess I don't need to work for the rest of my life. But like, what does that mean? Like, are you like just withdrawing money from this fund, or like, are you getting like dividends into your checking account? Like, how does it like logistically work that it feels like you're still getting paid? Because that's what I don't understand about people who inherit money. It's like, because to me, I don't have that kind of thing. Even if my parents gave me $1 million, I'm like, to me, it just sounds like, oh, I guess I'm just gonna put that in my savings and just use it until it runs out. Like, you know what I mean? What does it mean to inherit money and you can just sort of live off of it? What does that look like exactly?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I have a Goldman Sachs account. My money that was like given to me through my grandpa is in an index fund and then in Microsoft stock. And so it's like those two things. Microsoft stock's doing well. So it's like every, you know, month or couple months, I'll, you know, put in a request to wire, you know, however much money from my Goldman Sachs account to my checking, my Wells Fargo.
And by that you mean selling stock?
Yeah, so I'll sell the index fund. So I'll sell some portion of the index fund, but I'll do it incrementally because, like, you know, theoretically it's working for me more if I leave it in stock than like just draining it into the checking account.
Right.
So that's kind of how that works.
Oh, that's what we saw, like some movement from your Goldman Sachs account.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Were you wondering
That wasn't
as well?
no, I wasn't wondering that.
But it was
at
good.
all.
It was good. But I think you. Okay. Were you not?
You don't know her
I'm
at
glad
all.
it's answered, but I wasn't wondering that. No, just kidding. That's very fascinating. What would, if you were to give us financial advice based on things you've learned?
Yeah.
Things you've learned from your childhood about money, or just like maybe something your parents might have said. Is there anything?
How you're living right now?
What would you? What was a little advice that nobody should take, but because this is not a real financial podcast?
Yeah, don't take it. But,
Don't take it.
But if you had to at gunpoint give financial
but
advice,
help the cash cutie.
Yeah. Give financial advice at gunpoint is a very cash cuties moment.
I think, I mean, yeah, I mean, to be clear, I'm not. But I think that, like, what the kind of like main principle that I kind of like to think about is like, you know, really why am I buying the thing that I want to buy? And like, what does it specifically mean? And I think that, you know, a lot of times when you grow up and, you know, it seems like people who grow up without money, like, you know, having expensive things or even just like not like a fuck ton of money, like having really expensive things is something that you can kind of like romanticize and be like, once I have X, then this will be great. And, you know, it's cliche to the point to say that, you know, money doesn't buy happiness.
Yeah.
And so it's like, but I think that, you know, like I have the Ford Focus. I could have a nicer car, but why would I want that? Like the car drives great. It's small. It's the fuel economies. It just totally serves my purposes. Why would I want a nicer car? And I don't have a good reason. Like, I don't want people to like see my car and be like, he's got money. I don't like, I have no desire. So I don't know. I just try to think about it in that term. And I think it kind of like helps me, you know, I don't spend ultimately that much relative to how much I could be spending, and I think it's because like I just try to be thoughtful about like really why am I buying something.
So for me, okay, so I'm gonna get my next car, which is like next month. I'm thinking about getting a convertible.
Ooh.
So a convertible, but it's a cheap one. It's like the cheapest hardtop you can get, which is the Miata.
Yeah.
And that's because of the experience, right?
Yeah,
The
it's a great
experience
reason.
of having like, you know, feeling the
Wind in your
air,
hair.
the wind in the hair and all that. I don't know what the point was right now.
Well,
the
but
point
you're
is I'm saying
justifying
like
to
that
yourself
my
that it's okay.
justification of the car is that it gives me an experience.
Pleasure.
While the Ford Focus, not to shit on it, I don't know what kind of experience it is.
got
I
a
don't
moonroof.
know when you're driving through if you feel anything.
Not much.
But I guess like
Like the so I'm just saying.
that was the weirdest
Okay,
thing.
that was weird.
Do
I
you
need to feel something.
Do you feel that was? I don't know what that was. It wasn't rude. You were projecting some weird insecurity.
If you need to
How
feel
did
something
I
in your
feel?
life, a Miata will do
This is the
it.
weirdest Mazda commercial
it's-
ever.
I think because you're basically saying like, hey, if with the Ford Focus, you could. It's like you don't. It does what it does, and you don't like. Why are you buying this thing? And I thought I needed to justify.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's
be
a
like-
good like. You're excited about having a convertible. You're excited about having the wind in your hair. Like, you know, you have something in mind that you specifically want out of this, and so I think it's a great purchase to make.
Yeah. Does driving not do that for you? Like the driving experience. That's what it is.
I like
It's just-
being in my car, like listening to the Cash Cuties podcast when I'm driving.
Hey man, as long as it's got Bluetooth and some
Yeah.
speakers, you're good to go. You're
That's
good
true.
to go.
He's got a Prius and
But we
Good
have
call.
different values. Like he doesn't care anything. Like he just as long as
Doesn't
it's safe
care.
and gets to point A. I really care about fuel economy. That's my number one thing.
it really?
But that makes me happy.
But hold on,
in a way that the convertible makes you happy.
Can I say something? He just told me that he got into another car accident.
But it wasn't me.
But
It
this
wasn't me.
car, I know it's never you. But the weird thing is, this car has brought. I'm sorry, has brought some sort of bad luck or
You
juju.
keep saying
This
that.
has been the sixth accident.
No,
That
not
is a
on
lot.
this
That
car.
do
Not on-
you? How do you feel about this?
That's so many accidents.
That's a lot,
No.
and it's not you.
That's not even fair what you're saying right now.
Once you got
Is it
that
not
car,
6?
It's 4, but
Plus.
3 is me. So it's 3 is me, and 1 was my girlfriend was driving it.
But that's
So
why
I
it's the
don't
car-
know. It's if you can blame me, but
that's weird, right? And he's only had this car for less than a year now.
a little over a year.
That's insane. I mean, I'm in general, I'm not team blame the car for that, but that's like
You did a lot.
insane.
But okay, so 1 was insane. Like it was a hit and run on a highway, very scary. Everything was fucked up. So that's a real accident.
sure.
The other ones have been like just rear-ended, like stop sign. They weren't looking. They hit me.
Been there.
So I don't know. Like those little rear end things, I don't even really count them as. I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I do think it would be kind of silly to be like, I think my car is cursed, so I'm gonna get a new car. But it is also a ton of accidents.
That's a
didn't
lot,
even-
because like you probably, I haven't like with it. I've had my car for 3.5 years,
going on with me?
dude.
Is it the Prius?
Do you think people just don't like
They
you?
don't respect the Prius. I don't know what's going on, you guys.
Are they like, hey, that's that comedian? I'm gonna fuck his car.
I hate his content.
I
God damn. Okay.
well,
All right.
well, if you found out,
Yeah.
if you went to like a psychic and they
going to
out
a
of
fucking
nowhere, I'm
psychic.
just saying, say that somehow you find out that your car is cursed.
Then I would return it.
You would.
Yeah. I believe in that shit.
Interesting.
Or I would pay for like maybe it's cheaper to pay. I'd do a cost benefit analysis.
Get a
and s-
blessing on the
Yeah,
car.
I think maybe hiring a priest.
We
is
actually
cheaper.
took some sage and we went in
Yeah, we
and
did
we did the cleanse, and you said for a bit it was.
For,
okay.
I mean, yeah, so you did it what like over the summer? It's been for like 6 months.
Oh shit!
You know what
we're
other
due.
thing is?
We're due for
Not
another
really. Yeah. It's not that long.
What?
When I was in high school, my grandma from Japan would send me these safety
Bro!
wish list from like a temple in Japan, and I haven't done that.
You need more.
I didn't get one when I was in Japan last time.
You're
I
not-
need to do that.
You need to respect your ancestors.
I
You need
really
to know where
do.
you came from, and you need to
True.
get one of these the little
what's it called?
um
Good luck charm thing.
a good luck charm. Are you talking about
paper
the
inside.
crystal or the paper
it's,
ones?
It's like a folder. It's like a very fancy bag, and it's got paper inside.
You
like,
1,000% need to do this.
Dude, 100. Because
Yeah.
when I was high school, 0 accidents, and I drove for 2.5 years. Pete, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Where can our fans find you and your work? Let them know.
Yeah, you can find me at Pete Ballmer on Instagram and at Pete Ballmer Comedy on TikTok. And yeah, give me a
And you're based
follow.
in the Bay, right?
I'm based in San Francisco.
San Francisco. So we have a lot of San Francisco cuties. So go see him at Any of the Don't Tell comedy shows.
And I'm a regular at San Francisco Punchline and Cobb's Comedy Club, so you can see me there.
I'm headlining March. You should ask if you want to open.
Oh, no way. Yeah, definitely.
Well, they wouldn't let me bring people. So
no, they're weird about that, but
so you could just message
you
me.
I'll be
guys
in
can
touch.
do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, March 6th to 9th. Come see me.
I love this episode. I thought this was, you're so open. And
So open.
This
Yeah.
is super
This is great.
fun conversation to have, and I appreciate
Yeah,
you guys
man.
being so kind and giving me a platform.
Please follow us on all the socials at Cash Cuties Pod. We're on TikTok and Instagram. Please also follow me at the Fumi Abe. That's TheFumiAbe.
You can follow me on Baked Goods on my Instagram, BAIKEDGUDS. You could Venmo me at Steffie is me.
Check it out.
And yeah, that was good.
That was good. Shout out to our engineer, Domagoy, video editor, Matias, video producer, our new video producer, Nicholas. Shout out. He's behind the
Ooh,
scenes.
Nicholas is here.
He's on his phone. And our analyst, Alexander, thank you so much. We cannot do this without you. If you have a Cash Cuties moment that you want to you want us to talk about, please email us at cashcutiespodcast@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram.
Or Venmo. I
voice-
said this last time too. Money's always on my mind. Okay.
Obsessed.
Voice memo us any of your money concerns.
Yes.
We would love to hear
We'd love
about
to
it.
hear from you. I think that's it. Cuties, we'll see you guys next week. And until then, spend your money wisely.
Or have fun.
Bye.
Bye.